Hello, dear friends. Welcome to Jessup Forum again. Today's topic is still Uyghur people's horrible situation in my country. And today we have invited a very important guest to our program. And she is Dr. Sophia Richardson. She is the China director at Human Rights Watch, based in America. Welcome to our program, Dr. Richardson, and it's my honor to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be with you. We welcome every opportunity to talk to people in the Uyghur community all over the world.
No, sorry. I have to say it again.
Okay.
Today, Dr. Richardson, the Uyghur people see you as one of our best friends, and I would like to talk to you like talk to a friend rather than making an interview. The world.
That too.
The world had promised never again, but unfortunately, never again is happening again. Some people describe it as a cultural genocide, but as victims, we are witnessing a real genocide or ethnic cleansing of Uyghurs, Kazakhs, and other people in our land, East Turkestan. China call it Uyghur Autonomous Region. We are weak. We have nothing to resist. And luckily, we have some friends like you around the world who are helping the voiceless Uyghurs by making pressure on the cruel and ruthless Chinese regime to stop the genocide. We do appreciate your great job and your help. At the same time, please allow me to ask you my first question. Do you think the world is doing enough to save Uyghurs? If not, why?
Well, first, let me thank you for inviting me to join you today. It's lovely to talk to friends in the community all over the world. And in some ways much nicer than a formal stiff interview. I also want to say I think many people, Uyghurs, Kazakhs, Kyrgyz in the communities around the world have done an extraordinary job speaking up for themselves and for their family members. We've found it very moving to watch people share information about what's happened to their family members, to put names and faces and other identifying information to those campaigns. And I think that's a powerful way, actually, of saying that China's story is just shockingly dishonest. Do we think that the world is doing enough in response to this crisis? Absolutely not. And we could have an interesting discussion about how the world might have responded if the US was arbitrarily detaining 1 million Muslims, or if Germany or Mexico or Japan or some other country, but because it's China, it gets a free pass, or it thinks it's getting a free pass. I think this is largely made possible by China's power, both its economic and its political power in the world today. The Uyghur community isn't as well known as, for example, Palestinians or even, for example, Rohingya are now. But I think China is doing a great job of giving the world a chance to get to know the Uyghur community, its extraordinary history and culture, the way it has been brutally suppressed in the region, but also that, if the rest of the world is serious about wanting China to play by the same rules as everybody else, it must intervene urgently on behalf of the populations in the region.
We have just heard that the US Senate has just passed Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act, and we are very happy to hear that. And this bill is an important step in countering the totalitarian Chinese government's genocide of Uyghurs and other Muslims in eastern Turkestan. And yet, we are expecting it would be passed in Congress soon and signed by the president so that it would become a law. Do you think the act would become a law? If yes, what difference it could make?
It's a great point. We were very excited to see the Senate demonstrate such support for the bill this week, and we have certainly encouraged the House to adopt it swiftly and to get it to the president's desk, partly because it sets out issues or responses to Chinese government human rights violations that are not just important for the Uyghur community, but we think lay down very strong markers for responses to other human rights violations perpetrated by the Chinese government. But in the immediate sense, the bill is very important because it calls on the United States to show strong support for a UN investigation of the human rights violations against Uyghurs in the last couple of years. It calls for sanctions on senior Chinese government officials. It sets out the establishment of a new office within the State Department to track these issues. And one piece of the bill that I think is especially important in this day and age, because I think this problem has gotten much worse, is that it specifically sets out as a concern the harassment and intimidation of Uyghurs, Kazakhs, Kyrgyz, and others harassed by Chinese government officials here in the United States. And that's an idea that other governments can replicate all over the world. So the bill, I think, is very creative, and we really hope to see it signed into law soon.
Thank you. During the World War II, the whole world stood up for the Jewish people and liberated many of them from the Nazi Germany's persecution. Today, the same thing is happening to the Uyghurs. But the world is strangely keeping silence over this crisis. What is the reason here, you think? Because the Uyghurs are Muslims? Because of the trade benefits from China? Or because the China is so-called superpower?
I think all of those things are true. I think the most powerful explanations have to do with money and self-interest, that many governments, even the ones that have taken very strong rhetorical positions about abuses of Uyghurs, have not necessarily done things like imposed sanctions or pushed for a fact-finding mission or really backed any of those other very concrete steps that really would potentially prompt Beijing to change its behavior. I think the response, or the lack of a response, by many of the governments within the Organization of Islamic Cooperation is a powerful example that we can't expect a common identity across different countries. In this case, the commonality of Islam to necessarily translate into supporting or defending fellow members of that same faith. A number of OIC member states supported China's position about Uyghurs recently at the United Nations Human Rights Council. And that's governments including Pakistan, for example. It's interesting to us, and it may be to some of your listeners, that a number of governments didn't sign either China's statement or the one expressing concern about what's happening to Uyghurs. Turkey didn't sign, Indonesia, Malaysia, a number of other countries. And it's possible that some of your listeners and your friends in those countries may want to push harder on those governments to get them to take a sympathetic position. I think when you see an international coalition that's very broadly representative, it's much harder for China to say, that particular position is just a Western conspiracy or it's just the US. I think the more diverse that group is pushing back against China and in support of Uyghurs, the more effective it will be in the long term.
Yes, thank you. And one thing is urgent now. You have heard, I think, the Amnesty International has recently, just I can say 2 days ago, called on an urgent action against possible imminently execution of the jailed former head of Uyghur University, Tashpolat Tayyip. And they urged China's Chairman Xi to intervene in his case and release him unconditionally. And we know that many other Uyghur intellectuals are facing the same fate as a part of China's plan to eradicate the Uyghurs in our homeland. We also know it very well that Xi himself masterminded the genocide and very determined to reach his goal here. The outside world is still believing that the CCP leaders could uphold justice and release those innocent individuals. For us, it's like to play the lute to a car, but we really urge international community to act immediately to make pressure on Chinese regime, because they do care about their reputation. Otherwise, China could send Tashpolat Tayyip and other intellectuals to the other world easily. What could the human rights organizations like Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International do here?
Well, since this news came a few days ago, we've been scrambling to press a number of the governments that traditionally are very strong on these kinds of issues, but also some of the international academic institutions that have or in the past have had relationships with that university in Urumqi, to push them to work for his release, to execute a peaceful academic would just be, one of the gravest kind of human rights violations there is. And I think so soon after, the death in detention of Nobel Peace Prize winner Liu Xiaobo and other fairly high-profile Chinese government activists or Chinese independent activists, the reputation that China is getting for detaining people and letting them die in detention or executing them is appalling. Or giving them life sentences or very harsh sentences, such as that given to Ilham Tohti. These are people who the outside world clearly understands are keys to the longer term settlement of serious grievances or an end to human rights violations, not people who are threats to the state. And I think China not only commits a grave human rights violation if it goes ahead with this, but it also does a terrific job of alienating governments around the world. And so, we certainly join our Amnesty colleagues in the call that he immediately be released, that the charges be dropped, that he be allowed to leave the country. There's no other right way out of this situation.
And do you think that we can save him?
We're aware that a number of governments are weighing in at fairly high levels right now. The fact that he has family members outside the country, his brother is a U.S. citizen, that certainly has helped in mobilizing information very quickly, and we'll see if Beijing responds to that pressure.
Thank you. And we have been suffering since Qing dynasty had conquered East Turkestan and let it become a province of China in 1884. Millions of Uyghurs and other local people have lost their lives. But it is the first time that we are experiencing an open genocide committed by the Chinese state. According to some survivors from the concentration camps, the Chinese regime are sterilizing Uyghur women and forcibly let all the detainees take unknown medicines and injections. Illegal organ harvesting, raping, forced marriage, forcibly separating children from their parents, etc., etc. is happening. This is not what human can do. Many people died just short after they were released from those concentration camps. Chinese are committing genocide in this way. It's quite different from Milosevic's open genocide by shooting innocent people, because Chinese just want to avoid attracting the world's attention. They think they're clever and they can let the Uyghurs disappear in this way. And nobody could believe that this kind of brutality could happen in the 21st century. But it's happening. And some Uyghurs are already afraid that Uyghurs would really disappear in our homeland. And would you believe that this nightmare, this nightmare could become a reality in our modern time? And do you think the Chinese regime could really wipe out the Uyghurs in East Turkestan?
Well, I think that the Chinese government's longer-term goal is not necessarily to eradicate Uyghurs or other Turkic Muslim communities as peoples, but rather to eradicate their distinct identity and to reshape them into wholly loyal subjects of the Chinese Communist Party. I mean, we obviously have documented arbitrary detention, torture, ill treatment, these kinds of physical abuses inside and outside of political education camps, prisons, detention centers, other different kinds of facilities. But I think we find almost as disturbing Chinese authorities' insistence that, for example, people learn and speak Mandarin rather than Uyghur, that they abandon their faith, that they be forced to give up cultural traditions, that they are being separated from their children, and that children are only being educated in Chinese rather than in Uyghur. All of these steps that seem designed over the long term to essentially erase that which makes Uyghurs distinct. And that is a very alarming thing to watch, a state that's a member of the United Nations Security Council do here in 2019. It's an appalling human rights violation. It's clearly prohibited by international law. And, the point we keep making to other governments is that if China gets away with this, it can probably get away with a lot more too. And that has terrible consequences for even more people. And so this is a critical time to weigh in, oblige Beijing to, agree to something like a UN fact-finding mission and the possibility of accountability for gross human rights violations. China shouldn't be treated any differently from the US or from Norway or from Myanmar or, any of the other governments that has had to undergo certain kinds of international scrutiny when the rest of the world decides its conduct is so far off the mark that it requires that kind of intervention.
Yeah, that's why I said in the beginning that some people would like to describe it as a cultural genocide, but we are witnessing that people are dying, and we have seen many people. They have died just short after they were released from concentration camps, and while they are sterilizing women. This is another kind of genocide, I think. It's not only cultural genocide, it's real genocide. And my next question is, the Chinese regime hates or afraid of anybody to do anything against them. Even they just want to help them by telling them friendly what they are doing wrong. As a human rights defender, have you ever experienced a threat or inconvenient actions from the Chinese regime?
I'm very fortunate in that that my part of our work, for the most part, is fairly insulated from those kinds of problems. But certainly, people who work with me at Human Rights Watch have experienced or had unpleasant experiences with Chinese government officials. But we're always much more concerned about what's happening to, whose stories we're trying to gather and share with the outside world, because they don't have nearly as many protections as we do if officials find out that they've been talking to us or that they've shared information outside the country. And I think, one of the most brutal tactics or aspects of the Strike Hard campaign and its consequences, especially for families that are divided across different countries, is this cutting off contact between people inside and outside the country, so that you literally just can't know what's happened to your family members. At the same time, we've recorded many incidents, as increasingly have law enforcement officers in different countries around the world recorded instances, of Chinese government officials harassing people from the Uyghur community or other communities that Beijing perceives as problematic in other countries. And that, I think, has alarmed other governments in a way that helps mobilize them in a broader sense. When they see their own citizens or people in their own countries being harassed, they're not amused by that.
Thank you. And, President Trump is a businessman. Many believe that he would rather have a trade deal with China than taking care of human rights issue. And do you agree with them?
Yes, I do. I think President Trump is deeply problematic on human rights issues, both in the sense that his defense of human rights is very politicized and opportunistic, but also that many of the policies that he's pursued here in the United States are deeply antithetical to the U.S.'s human rights obligations. Think about, for example, family separations on the U.S.-Mexico border. We make this point all the time and say, for all of the people around the world who think that Donald Trump's policy of family separations is awful, they should think the same thing about Xi Jinping's. But the U.S. has been incredibly inconsistent over the last couple of years in the face of this crisis. I mean, many senior U.S. government officials, including Secretary of State President Pence, have said a lot of the right things. They've expressed concern about what's happening to Uyghurs. They've talked about religious freedom, but they haven't done much in response in ways that would prompt Beijing to change its behavior. They haven't pursued sanctions. They haven't taken aspects of the trade discussions off the table. There are levers that are available to them, and they've chosen not to pull those, and that's deeply problematic.
Thank you, and I really hope that this couldn't have a negative effect, that he signs the Uyghur Human Rights Policy Act. I really hope that he can sign on the act. My next question is, I wonder if you have good contact with the Uyghur diaspora. If yes, what is your impression about them, and do you know what they want?
That's a great question. We certainly know some people. We always want to make more friends and meet new people. How would we characterize the diaspora? I think as one that has been extraordinarily resilient in the face of, a crisis or a kind of human rights violations that just eats away at people. People not knowing where their family members are, not being able to contact them, having no idea when, if ever, they'll ever be able to contact them again. The fact that people, in the face of these pressures, have organized to protest these abuses, talked to their own governments, engaged in cultural preservation programs, gathered evidence of human rights violations. I mean, these are extraordinary acts of faith, and I think preservation of the community in the face of enormous pressures. I think we're a little bit in awe of the ways that the community has protected and stood up for itself. Right. Sorry.
I'm asked. I have asked you a question that do you know what they want, because the Western media is sometimes getting wrong information. I don't know why some people are giving interview to Western media and they cannot tell the truth, and they cannot tell the Western media what Uyghur people want. Here I can tell you that the only thing the Uyghur people want is this. We really want to have our country back. I mean, for us, it's we are deeply convinced that it's impossible to live together with the Chinese now, because China has left no other option to us. So I just wanted you to know what we want, because this is really important. Many of my friends today wanted me to tell you about this. That's why I have asked you a question and I tell you the answer. And finally, thank you very much, Dr. Richardson, to having a little bit time for us. And it's very nice to have such an interview, talking to you. And I really hope that we could have another chance to talk to you later when you have time. Finally, I really hope that you can have a nice day today.
Thank you so much. I've learned a great deal from this conversation, and I would be delighted to speak to you again and other members of the community. It's, we've made some, I think, modest progress, but there's still obviously a long way to go until, this nightmare is over. But please understand that we remain committed to doing all we can on behalf of the community to try to get us to that point sooner rather than later.
Thank you very much. We hope that we can live like human beings one day. Thank you very much. Have a nice day, Dr. Richardson.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Endi o'zimizdan gapiga o'tsak, qarindoshlar, bugun men bilan dialogda bo'lgan bu xonim shu xalqaro inson haqlari faoliyatlari sohasida intayin muhim rol o'ynayotgan bir shaxs. Ya'ni bu Amerikadagi Human Rights Watch degan tashkilotniki Xitoy ishlarga mas'ul xodimi. Agar diqqat qilsanglar, bu xonim doim shu cho'ng-cho'ng televiziyalarda chiqib Xitoydagi inson haqlari jihatdagi ichilish ahvollar, bo'libmi Uyg'urlar bilan Tibetlarniki hozirgi navbatdagi ichilish ahvollarini dunyoga anlatib kelayotgan muhim bir shaxs. Men uzun bo'lgan bu xonim bilan aloqa orqali mümkün bo'lsa bir suhbat qilgan bo'lsak, bizning sizdan so'raydiganlarimiz bor deb. Bugun bu ayol bilan bir suhbat qilish nasib bo'ldi. Ham Uyg'urlar so'rashga tegishlik. Ham masalan, cho'ng-cho'ng ekranlarda so'ralmagan suallarni birgan so'rash imkoniyati bo'ldi. Hammani so'rab oldim. Bu ayolmi hech qanday savoldan cho'chigani yo'q. Nihoyatda samimiy javob bergan bo'ldi. Buningda hamda men bu xonimniki javoblarning hammani esimda tutolmadim gapning ochig'i. Chunki so'ralgan savol nihoyat ko'p. Javobmi xeyli ko'p bo'lg'achqa bugun endi qisqacha nima so'ralgani va javobning nima bo'lganligini qisqacha bir tushuntirib o'tib, agar lozim bo'lsa men qayta bir programma qilib bu xonimniki javoblarini to'liq tarjima qilib ko'pchilikka yetkazib bersam bo'ldi. Buningda birinchi so'rag'im dunyo bizga ikkinchi dunyo urushi mezgilida Yahudilarga qartilgan keng ko'lamli qirg'inchilikqa o'xshash bir cho'ng qirg'inchilik endi bu dunyoda yer shahrida qayta yuz bermaydi deb va'da qilgandi. Ammo nihoyat afsus bunday ish yana yuz beryotdi. Ya'ni bizning vatanimiz bo'lgan Sharq Turkistonda, ya'ni bu yerda eskartib o'tganim, Xitoy uni Uyg'ur avtonom rayoni deb ataydi deb eskartib o'tdim. XC degan tilga olmadim. Ashad yuz beryotdi dedim. Andan keyin ba'zi insonlar buni kültür qirg'inchiligi, ya'ni madaniyat qirg'inchiligi deb tasvirlayotdi. Amaliyotda bu madaniyat qirg'inchiligi emas. Bu haqiqiy qirg'inchilik. Ya'ni insonlar o'lyapti, Uyg'urlar yo'qolyapti deb tushundirdim bu ayolga. Undan boshqa mening so'rag'im endi biz bek ojiz, ya'ni qo'limizda hech nima yo'q Xitoyga qarshi turg'idek. Ammo ta'limimizga sizga o'xshash dunyoda mushtaq ovozsiz qolgan Uyg'urlarga yordam berayotgan do'stlarimiz va inson huquqlari organlari bor va boshqa organlar bor. Ular shu rahimsiz Xitoy va Xitoy hukumatiga besim ishlatib, bu keng ko'lamli qirg'inchilikni to'xtatishga besim qilyotdi. Biz siz va sizga o'xshash, sizning organingizga o'xshash organlarningki xizmatlariga nihoyat ko'p rahmat aytamiz va nihoyat rozi ekanligimizni bildiramiz. Sizdan so'raydiganim, sizcha bu dunyo Uyg'urlarni qutqizish jihatda yetarli xizmat olib beryaptimi? Agar bo'lmasa sabab nima? deb so'raganimda bu ayol, bu xonimmi ko'z qarashi asosan bizga o'xshaydi ekan. Ya'ni deydiki, Xitoy hozir o'ziniki iqtisodiy kuchidan foydalanib, dunyodagi oz bo'lmagan diktator davlatlarni setib olish orqali xalqaro cho'ng organ, masalan BDTga o'xshash cho'ng organlarda ba'zi qarorlarning elinishining oldini olyapti. Mush orqali hamda mush Uyg'urlar ustidagi zulmni yengillatishda bizga o'xshash harakat qilayotganlarniki cho'ngroq unum qozonishimizda to'sqinlik bo'lyapti. Buni mening hayron qolganim deydi. Masalan, shu musulmon davlatlar, Turkiyaga o'xshash davlatlarniki bir muhim rol o'ynamasligi meni hayron qoldirdi deganda gap qildi. Qolgan hamda tafsilotni toza esimda yo'q. Boya degandek, agar lozim bo'lsa qayta tarjima qilib buni tafsilotini men qayta anglasam bo'ldi. Ikkinchi so'rag'im, biz yaqinda nihoyat xo'shallik bilan shuni ko'rdikki, Amerika Senati shu Uyg'ur inson huquqlari siyosiy qonuni loyihasini tasdiqladi. Bu ish bizni nihoyat xushal qildi. Bu hamda Xitoy hukumatiga besim ishlatib, Uyg'urlar ustidagi zulmni yengillatishda nihoyat muhim rol o'ynaydigan bir akt, bir qonun loyihasi. Hamda biz bu qonunninki kongressdami, parlamentdami o'tishini umid qilamiz va oxirida buni agar prezident Donald Trump imzo atsa, bu bir qonunga aylanadi. Bu hamda bu qonunga aylansa, bu vatanimiz Sharq Turkistondagi Uyg'ur va Qozoq va boshqa millatlarniki ustida yurgizilayotgan qonunliq bostirishniki yengillatishida cho'ng rol o'ynaydi dedim. Oxirida so'rag'im, sizcha bu qonun loyihasi tasdiqdan o'tib bir qonunga aylanamdi? Agar o'tib qolsa, u qanday muhim rol o'ynaydi degan savol so'radim. So'rag'imda bu xonimniki ko'z qarashim asosan bizga o'xshashga, deydi bu qonunning san'atdan o'tganligini anglab men nihoyat xush bo'ldim deydi. Endi menimcha bu kongressdan uzun o'tmay o'tdi. Agar prezidentning imzolashi bilan bu bir qonunga aylansa, bu qonun endi Uyg'urlarniki va boshqa nimalarniki Sharq Turkistondagi shu millatlarniki hozir ustida yurgizilayotgan shu qonliq bostirishlarniki yengillatishida nihoyat aktiv, pozitiv rol o'ynaydi u deb tushundirdi. Uchinchi bo'lib so'rag'inim, Ikkinchi dunyo urushi mezgilida butun dunyo qo'zg'alib Yahudi xalqini qo'g'digan va ular uchun urushgan ve az bo'lmagan Yahudilarni Nazi Germaniyaniki shu qonli qirg'inchilikdan qutqizib qolgan. Bugun o'xshash ish Uyg'urlar yuz beryapti. Ammo nihoyatda g'ayriy ahvol shuki, butun dunyo degidek nihoyatda tinish holatda. Ya'ni bir inkas degandek yetarli inkas bo'lmayapti bu ishga. Sizce bunun asaslık sebep nima? Bu Uyg'urlarning musulmon bo'lib qolganligidanmi va yoki Xitoy bilan bo'lgan savdo munosabati sabablikmi? Va yoki atalmış Xitoyniki superpower alayda bir kuch bo'lganligi sababidanmi deb so'rasam, bu xonim dediki, siz degan bu sabablarning hammasi bor deydi. Yani boya degandek Xitoy iqtisodiy yuksalib jiq davlatlarga ta'sir ko'rsatadigan holat yetkazishga ular iqtisodiy kuchidan foydalanib nurg'un davlatlarni setib olish orqali xalqaro organlarniki bu vaqtda qonun ma'qullashi besim ishlatishini oldini olyapti, to'sqinlik qilib qo'yapti degandek mazmunda qisqa javob berdi. Balkim inchki yerlar bo'lishi mumkin. Uni inshaalloh men qayta anglab chiqqandan keyin qayta bir program qilib tushuntirib bersam bo'ldi. To'rtinchi so'rog'im xalqaro kechirim tashkiloti, ya'ni Amnesty International yaqinda jiddiy bir chaqiriq e'lon qildi. Ya'ni u bo'lsa-mu Uyg'ur universiteti deb oldim. Bu yerda vatanninki ex-jevda atilgan universitet var. Uyg'ur universitetiniki sobiq boshlig'i Toshpo'lat Tayibniki balkim jiddiy o'ldirilishi, o'lim jazosi ijro qilinishi va duch kelishi mushta bir ehtimollik bo'layotganligini eskartib Amnesty International, ya'ni xalqaro kechirim tashkiloti butun dunyoni qo'zg'alib Xitoy raisi Shi Cho'shqaga besim ishlatib Toshpo'lat Tayib apandini shartsiz qo'yib berish jihatda harakatga chaqirganligi namimiz ko'rdik. Biz yana bu Toshpo'lat Tayibga o'xshash az bo'lmagan shu Uyg'ur ziyolilariniki mushta o'xshash vaziyat ishkanligi, ba'zilarining yani o'limga hukm qilinish, ijro qilinish ahvolida turayotganligi, faqatla Toshpo'lat Tayib emasligini eskartib o'tgandan keyin bunda qilishniki Xitoyniki Uyg'urlarni yo'q qilish, ya'ni Uyg'urlarni o'zlarining davlatida yo'q qilish planining bir qismi ekanligini eskartib o'tdim. Men dedimki, biz yana shuni bilamizki, bu Xitoy bu Uyg'urlarni yo'qotish, ya'ni Uyg'urlar ustidan olib berayotgan qirg'inchilikning asosli planlovchisi. Hem bu ishda nihoyatda qattiq irodalikda ko'rinadi. Ya'ni bu irodasi yetmaguncha bo'sh qo'ymaydigandek holatda. Ammo tashqi dunyo yanada Xitoy Kommunistik Partiyasi rahbarlarininki insonlikni joriy qildirib, ya'ni insoniy muomala qilib bu ishga u sababsiz tutib turilgan shu Toshpo'lat Tayibga o'xshash odamlarni qo'yib beradiganligiga ishonadi. Ammo biz bo'lsak, masalan, biz Uyg'urlarga nisbatan bu xuddi eshakning quliqiga dapchag'andek bir ish deb o'tdim. Ammo biz qandaqli bo'lmasin xalqaro jamiyatning jiddiy harakatga o'tib, Xitoy hukumatiga qattiq besim ishlatishini umid qilamiz, chunki Xitoy hukumati o'zining xalqarodagi yuz obro'yiga diqqat qiladi. Mushundan qo'rqib bo'lsa-mu, shu Toshpo'lat Tayibga o'xshash ziyolilarimizni o'ttirish, jihatda qo'lini asrab tortib olish ehtimoli bo'lishi mumkin. Shunga biz xalqaro jamiyatning jiddiy faoliyatga o'tishini umid qilamiz dedim. Bu jihatda siz va sizning organingizga o'xshash inson huquqlarini qo'llaydigan organlar nima qilib bera oladi deb so'radim. So'rag'animda bu xonim dediki, Sofiya xonim dediki, biz izchil shu Amnesty International bu ishni e'lon qilgandan keyin biz jiddiy xabar topdik, ham qo'limizdan keladigan ishlarni qilyapmiz deydi. Bu ishlardan izchil xabarimiz bor deydi. Xitoy hukumati bilan aloqa qilish va boshqa xalqaro organlar bilan hamkorlashib besim ishlatish yerda jiddiy harakat qilayotganligini aytdi. Bu yerda bir unum qozish orzusi borligini aytdi. Tafsilotini yana hozir darhol esimda yo'q, yana ko'rib chiqsak bo'ldi. Andan keyin 5-chi so'rg'inim Qing sulolasi Sharq Turkistonni 1884-yilda besilib Xitoyning bir o'lkasi qilgandan tortib biz qirilib qolyapmiz. Millionlagan Uyg'ur va boshqa yerlik millatlar qirilib ketdi. Ammo bu qatim biz tunji qatim yani bir butun davlatniki harakatga kelib davlatning buyrug'i bilan butun bir millatni yo'q qo'yib o'tish tek mustaq jiddiy bir vaziyatga duch kelyapmiz. Ya'ni Xitoy hukumati hozir hukumatning buyrug'i bilan bir millatni, birla emas, Uyg'ur, Qozoq o'xshash musulmon millatlarni yo'q qilishga o'tdimiz. Shundoq qirg'inchilik yuz kelyapmiz. Ba'zi shu jazo lagerlaridan qutulib chiqqanlarning deyishicha, Xitoy hukumati Uyg'ur ayollarini tug'mas qilib o'tadigan dorilar bilan tug'mas qilib o'tibdi. Hamma shu lagerdagilarga nimaligini aniq bo'lmagan dorilarni berib o'tibdi, o'qilib o'tibdi. Ularning ishqorlarini sug'urib olibdi. Bosqinchilik qilish, majburiy to'y qildirish, bolalarni ota-onalardan majburiy ayirib o'tishga o'xshash nihoyatda qonxo'r ahvollarda yuz beryapti. Bu inson qiladigan ish emas dedim. Ya'ni this is not what human can do. Ya'ni bu inson qila oladigan ish emas dedim. Many people just died. Ya'ni nurg'un odamlar bu yerda atalmish qo'yib berilgandan keyin uzun o'tmay o'lib ketyapti. Ya'ni Xitoy hukumati mushu shaklda erkin qirg'inchilik olib beryapti. Bu Milosevichniki burungi Bosniyada uch qashqari qirg'inchilik olib borganlikqa qaraganda yana o'xshamaydi. Chunki Xitoy Milosevichga o'xshash uch qashqarlarda qirg'inchilik olib borsa, butun dunyoning diqqatini qo'zg'ab, bu qirg'inchilikni to'sish ehtimoli borligini bilgachga Uyg'urlarni mushtaq maxfiy o'ltirib yo'q qilish shakli orqali irqiy qirg'inchilik olib beryapti. Ba'zi Uyg'urlar shundoq jiddiy ahvolda, yana bir degan gapim, hech kim 21-asrda bundoq qonli qirg'inchilikning yuz berishiga ishonmaydi dedim. Mushtaq ahvolda ba'zi Uyg'urlar haqiqatan Uyg'ur yo'qolib ketami degan bir andishada bo'lyapti degan eskartib o'tgandan keyin sizcha 21-asrda Xitoy hukumatining shu qirg'inchiligi sababli Uyg'urlar yo'qolib ketami deb so'radim. So'rsam xonim dediki, menimcha Xitoy hukumatiniki asli maqsadi balki bu Uyg'urlarni biroqla yo'q qo'yish bo'lmasa kerak. Bizning ko'rayotganimiz Uyg'urlarni hammasini Xitoycha kiyindirib, Xitoycha so'zlatib, Xitoycha yeb ishkizib, kuchi yig'izib, Xitoycha o'qitib, ona tilini cheklab, bu shakl orqali xitoylashtirish, bu orqali ya'ni madaniy qirg'inchilik degan bir narsani apparatganda qilib ko'rinyapti degandim, eslatib dedim. Men gapimning beshidimi deb o'tdim. Ba'zilar bu madaniy qirg'inchilik deyapti, ammo madaniy qirg'inchilik emas. Biz o'z ko'zimiz bilan Uyg'urlarning asta-asta o'lib tugayotganligini ko'ryapmiz. Bu haqiqatan bir irqiy qirg'inchilik deb eslatib o'tdim bu xonimga. Keyingi savolimga o'tdim. Undan keyin so'rag'anim, sizmi bilasiz, ya'ni Xitoy hukumati ba'zilarning mayli kim bo'lishidan qat'iy nazar ularga qarshi gap qilishidan, ularga do'stona fikr berishidan qo'rqdi. Siz bir inson huquqlarini qo'g'dag'uvchi faoliyatchisi bo'lish sifatingiz bilan Xitoy hukumati tarafdan qo'rqitish yoki boshqa shundoq shakldagi ko'ngilsiz voqealarga yo'liqdingizmi desam, bu haqda ba'zi misollarni hep o'tdi, hamda nima deganligini toza aniq esimda qolmadi hozir, chunki beshidagi savol javoblar bir oqir so'zgandan keyin javobi toza esimda qolmabdi, uni men degandek qayta bir nuqson bo'ldi. Undan keyin so'rag'anim, sizmi bilasiz, Prezident Donald Trump bir tijoratchi. Bu adam hamda sizlar uy silib, uy mulk ishlari bilan shug'ullanayotgan tijoratchi. Hozir prezident bo'ldi. Nurg'un adam ishonadiki, u inson haqlariga ko'ngil bo'lishga qaraganda Xitoy bilan savdo kelishimi tuzib, savdoda jiqroq pul qazanishga bakrak qiziqdi. Mushtaq ko'z qarashli odamlar oz emas. Siz qo'shilamsiz mushlarning fikriga desam, Sofiya xonim dediki, kulib turib dedi, men qo'shilmay ularning fikriga dedi. Donald Trump haqiqatan bir tijoratchi. U inson haqlariga qaraganda tijoratga pul tepishga bakrak qiziqdi. Onun misol berdiki, esimda qilishi Meksika bilan Amerika chegarasida bir qism bolalarniki ota-onasidan ayirib o'tilganligi, ya'ni ota-onasi mayoq o'tib ketgan bo'lsin, bolalar o'tamay oyoqda qolib qolgan holatda Donald Trumpniki ularni Amerika chegarasidan o'tkazishga qo'shilmaganligidek misollarni tilga olgandan keyin Donald Trump haqiqatan bu inson haqlari jihatda degandek ishengil bo'lmaydigan odam degandek javob berdi. Onun tafsilotini yana yesak bo'ldi asosda. Oxirida so'rag'anim, sizning chet eldagi Uyg'urlar bilan qo'yiq munosabatingiz bormi? Agar bor bo'lsa, ularga bo'lgan ta'sirotingiz qanday? Siz ularning nima xohlaydiganligini bilamsiz deb so'radim. So'rsam Sofiya xonim dediki, o'zining bular Uyg'ur oz bo'lmagan Uyg'urlar bilan barabar tanishayotganligi, ularni taniydiganligi, qo'yiq munosabati bo'layotganligi, ham ularniki ichinish ahvollarini, hikoyalarini anglagandan keyin qattiq ta'sirlanganligini bir oqir so'zlab o'tdi, ammo ularning nima xohlaydiganligi haqida aniq birim demaganda men qayta ta'kidlab so'radim. Shu ba'zi Uyg'urlar g'arb medialarga intervyu berganda Uyg'urlarning ko'nglidagi gapni demayotdi. Yani Uyg'urlarning zot nima xohlaydiganligini demayotdi, to'g'ri yetkazmayotdi. Shuning uchun men sizdan so'radim, Uyg'urlarning nima xohlaydiganini bilamsiz deb so'radim. Desam, ha dedi. Degandan keyin Uyg'urlar nima xohlaydi bilamsiz deb Uyg'urlarga nima? Sharq Turkistonga mustaqillik degan bayroqni chiqarib, lozungini boshqa tezlagan bayroq va aslida lozungini ko'rsatib, Uyg'urlarning xohlaydigini bu dedi. Ya'ni Uyg'urlar hozir mustaqillikdan boshqa narsa xohlamaydi. Chunki Xitoy hukumatı bizga boshqa tanlash imkoniyati qo'ymadi dedim. Degandan keyin Sofiya xonim ha bilib oldim dedi. Buni men bildirib qo'yishdiki maqsad sizga dedim. Bunun dikey faoliyatingizda Uyg'urlarniki zodi nimani xohlaydiganligini bilib qolishingiz menimcha muhim deb Sofiya xonimga eslatib qo'ydim. Herhalde esida tutish kerak. Shuni bilganimda qanday bo'lmasin, qurbatimning yetishicha bir xalqarodagi bu doniq arbobni o'zimning toza to'liq bo'lmagan inglizcha bilan ziyorat qilib herhalde tamomladim, to'liqladim. Hem boya degandek bu ayolniki javoblarida cho'qim men tushuntirganda chalqagan yerlar ko'p. Uni men qayta anglab chiqib xotirlab, yana bir qator programma qilib ko'pchilikka vaqtida yetkazishga tirishaman. Vaqt chiqarib programmani ko'rib berganingizga rahmat. Xayr qilinglar, Allohga emanet.
Taşar kırğaktır, men seni şu kadar kadar sevindim vatan, ben seni şu kadar sevindim vatan. Sevmiştinizi taşar kırmaktan, ben seni şu kadar sevindim vatan, ben seni şu kadar sevindim vatan. Hıyallar her kaçan dersen ama en güzel düşlerde gözüm var. Hıyallar her kaçan gezersen tamam, en güzel düşlerde gözüm var. Bağrınga gömülmek en güzel armağan, ben seni şu kadar sevindim vatan, ben seni şu kadar sevindim vatan. Bağrınga gömülmek en güzel armağan, ben seni şu kadar sevindim vatan, ben seni şu kadar sevindim vatan. Kuşlarga qaray men nimadur özlab, vatanim osmonidan kimikinda. Kuşlarga qaray men nimadur özlab, vatanim osmonidan her taş her giya, ben seni şu kadar sevindim vatan, ben seni şu kadar sevindim vatan. Dıllarga tutuya her taş her giya, ben seni şu kadar sevindim vatan, ben seni şu kadar sevindim vatan. Ben seni şu kadar sevindim ana, ben seni şu kadar sevindim